Red State Talk Radio. Conservatism, Red State style.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
Red State Talk Radio. Conservatism, Red State style.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those who will take. Attorney General's lying even while
it's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? America Off the Rails has been declared a conservatives-only safe zone. Only conservatives allowed from this point forward. Any liberal, socialist, butthurt, hippie, tree huggers, please exit the facility immediately. Again, attention please. America Off the Rails is now designated as a conservative safe zone only. All butthurt, tree hugging, hippie, free to be you and me types exit the facility immediately. Thank you.
All right, folks, we are live. Good morning, Red State Talk Radio. How are you folks out there in Radio Land? I am Rick Robinson, and it is Sunday, November the 15th, 2015, and it is, oh my God, really early. It is 6 Eastern, so I hope you've got a nice cup of coffee. Going to sit down and talk with me for a while and have what I hope to be a great show. I have to admit, it's been a rough few days. And as you can see, I'm now going to start poking fun at the black safe zone folks, because if any other group was doing that, they would be being declared racist. So from now on, this show is a conservatives-only safe zone. So kick off your shoes, grab a cup of coffee if you're conservative, and hang out. If not, GTFO. Right now, just turn it off. I don't get. No, I'm kidding. Look, you guys, hopefully by now, know me well enough to know that I have a really, really odd sense of humor. So let me just be upfront. I hope we have liberals that listen to the show. As a matter of fact, I know we have liberals that listen to this show, and I also know that typically after some prolonged exposure to common sense, a lot of folks that consider themselves the crazy, rabid, foaming at the mouth type liberals typically come around. I know this because I'm watching it happen on another show that I do every Saturday morning on my home station and home network, K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network, called Finding Common Ground. We had, for the longest time, more of a Jeffersonian type liberal in Dave Brown, who did the show with me for a couple of years. Well, his schedule changed at his day job, so we found another gentleman who did an interview with us once, and we found that he would probably be a good fit once Dave had to abdicate his responsibilities. So it's interesting, if you go back and you listen to the archives, how you can see that Bryce and his mindset are changing. Now, there are times when his liberal tendencies completely rear their ugly heads and he digs in and he fights tooth and nail. But there are also times when he is fully rational and understands that a lot of the things that conservatives talk about actually do make sense, which is really interesting to watch. So if you're, or listen to even. So if you haven't checked out that show, I do encourage you to do so. But on to what we're going to be talking about today, because craziness everywhere. We have universities that are basically demanding that their presidents resign based on false stories. We have protest groups that are declaring themselves to be part of now black-only safe zones, and everybody else has to get out. And then we have a president who seems to think that ISIS is contained, and then within a few hours of that story breaking, we have all heck break loose in Paris. And yes, I use the word heck on purpose, sometimes on Red State, and in other places. This show actually goes out over terrestrial radio, so I'm trying to make everybody's life a little easier and not have to hit their little red button very often. Trust me, it's been an adjustment. I actually have family members that complain because of the language that I used when the show was internet only, but now that it's not, I'm having to learn to behave. But so basically, everything has come unhinged. Now, I have a question, and this is going to seem like an odd question to this group because I know most of you that listen to Red State probably think along the same lines that I do, but I have a question for those of us that are sitting back, scratching our heads right now. When did it turn into the fact that Paris president, or I did this on Finding Common Ground too yesterday, bear with me. When did it come into play that France's president now has a spine and ours couldn't find his rear end with two hands? Something is not right. Seriously. And now we still have the president, or the Secretary of State, John the California Raisin Kerry, or as other folks like to call him, Lurch, going around telling everybody, this is not ISIS. I mean, come on. Dude, I mean, they're claiming responsibility, even if it wasn't them. Once they claim responsibility, okay, fine, it's them. Pardon me. That's been my take all along, back when Russia was denying that the plane was taken down by terrorists, and ISIS is going, hey, guys, over here, yeah, we did it. Allah Akbar, Russia sucks. I mean, come on. If they take responsibility, even if they didn't do it, treat them like they did, because obviously they want to be treated like they did, even if they didn't. So can we just do something now? I mean, are we going to continue to sit on our hands while this group that is bent on world domination, and I'm not even trying to put all Muslims in that category, but really think about it for a second. This came up yesterday on Finding Common Ground. Bryce mentioned that like 5% of the German population were Nazis. Okay, well, what about the other 95%? What did they do? They went along to get along because they were terrified. For the most part. And yes, there have been a couple of groups, at last count that I know of, I think Saturday, it was either Friday night or Saturday morning, the Oklahoma chapter of CARE released a statement denouncing the attacks. Here's my problem. If you track CARE's lineage, the national chapters of CARE, the big main group of it all, yeah, they're all basically tied to the Muslim Brotherhood. So I'm not sure how these local chapters could be denouncing things that their big brother chapters all seem to be completely lined up in. But hey, what do I know? And that's been the talk of a lot of folks out here the Oklahoma way is, we have this CARE group that's all openly vocal and against all of these things, and this stuff shouldn't be happening. But their main chapter is tied up with the Muslim Brotherhood. Talk about confusing. So anyway, we have some audio that we're going to play in response to some of these things that happened on Friday night. And, well, actually, I think we're going to start with what probably started it all. Just from what I've been able to piece together. We have a new story about Jihadi John being taken out. These are all, of course, courtesy of ABC, so for the most part.
Big news overnight in the fight against ISIS. The chief executioner, Jihadi John, targeted by a drone in Syria. You see it right there. That is an ISIS stronghold. He is believed to be dead.
The U.S. had been hunting him for months, but one of the most wanted men on earth who terrorized the world with those brutal terror tapes, executing those 3 Americans and publicly calling for war against the United States.
He also taunted President Obama personally in those tapes. Our full team is on the story this morning, starting off with ABC's Brian Ross. Good morning, Brian.
Well, good morning, George. He became the face of evil, and the U.S. had been tracking Jihadi John, a British citizen, for months. U.S. officials say the drone strike was launched late Thursday, just before midnight in Syria, as he left a building in Raqqa and entered a vehicle. Military and intelligence officials watched live a video feed back in Washington, and one official told ABC News it was a 100% flawless direct hit. This morning, praise for the U.S. effort from leaders around the world.
I've always said that we would do whatever was necessary, whatever it took to track down Emwazi. Today I want to thank the United States.
The world first came to know Jihadi John a little over a year ago, when he appeared wearing a black mask, holding a knife, and threatening the life of American journalist James Foley. His voice was disguised, but he could not hide his British accent.
You have plotted against us and gone far out of your way to find reasons to interfere in our affairs.
One after another, he presided over the murders of Foley, American Stephen Sotloff, and Peter Kasich, plus 2 Britons and then 2 Japanese hostages. Earlier this year, his true identity was revealed to be Mohammed Emwazi, seen here wearing an American baseball cap, the son of Kuwaiti parents who emigrated to the United Kingdom. Even as a schoolboy in London, Emwazi was spotted by teachers as having a violent streak. One teacher told the BBC that at the age of 11, he was put in anger management therapy.
We'd find that he'd get very angry and worked up, and it would take him a long time to calm himself down.
As a young adult, he joined ISIS, flaunting his role as executioner. With his piercing eyes and gravelly voice, Emwazi became one of the world's most wanted men.
Our knife will continue to strike the necks of your people.
It's just so sad that our precious resources have been, concentrated to seek revenge, if you will, or kill this man, when if a bit of them had been utilized to save our young Americans, that's what our country should be doing.
U.S. officials this morning say they presume that Emwazi was killed in the drone strike based on what they observed of the hit. The vehicle he was in burst into flames, and one official said Jihadi John, essentially, George, was evaporated.
So they may never have the DNA.
May never have the DNA. That's right.
Brian Ross, thanks very much.
And so the long hunt for Jihadi John coming to an end. ABC's Martha Raddatz is in Washington. And Martha, we tracked...
All right, so that'll be enough for that. And I think, honestly, after doing a little bit of research, this is probably what... now, I think the stuff in Paris was actually planned before this, but I think they actually set it off maybe a little bit earlier than anticipated with the strike into their territory again and the presumed death of Jihadi John. Now, what amazes me is if you take into account that story... And then within several hours of that story breaking, the president of the United States starts making claims that ISIS is contained, that they're no longer the threat that they once were, the same thing that he's pretty much said from day one, and then they basically shove it all right back in our faces by terrorizing an entire country. This is my point that I've been trying to make, and it was a long time coming. And again, it's an odd question for this group because I know most of you that listen already are of like mind. But what is it going to take for us to wake up here? We have hundreds of thousands of these people that are pouring across our border yearly, annually. And I know everybody wants to give everybody the benefit of the doubt and say, yeah, the ones that are coming here, obviously they're not here to do us harm. The simple fact of the matter is there is an entire segment of that population that is built on world domination because their doctrine calls for it. Their belief system requires that the world be bathed in blood to return their Messiah, and we are handing them the ability to do so. We're handing it to them because we want to believe everybody has the same value system as we Westerners, that we believe that everybody is inherently a good person, that, you know, people just want to get along, they want to be able to pay their bills, they want to have a normal life, they want to have the home, the car. That there are groups of entire segments of our world's population that don't have anywhere near the same dreams, mindsets, and goals that we do because they don't understand how our part of the world works. They struggle for every single thing that they find. They kick, they scratch, they scream, they fight, they bite, some of them to eat dirt because it's all they can find. And we're trying to ascribe to these people the same values that we hold. This does not make sense to me. Not only does it not make sense to me, but it shouldn't make sense to you. Simply put, this is insane behavior. We cannot continue to ascribe to these people the same beliefs that we hold when they keep giving us evidence that we're wrong. And we keep saying, oh, that's okay, that's all right, we love you here in America, so we're going to assume that you're only doing this because we've treated you poorly. There comes a point in time when they can no longer use the excuse that I'm only doing this because you were mean to me. Or I'm only doing this because your government decided to attack my country. The simple fact of the matter is we typically don't go looking for a fight. We don't stick our nose in anywhere for the most part unless we feel like we absolutely have to. And yeah, all of this started with Iraq. And knowing what I know now, I wish we would have left Saddam in place because he was the stabilizing force in that particular region. But the simple fact of the matter is, for the lefties that are all still screaming that, you know, we went in there for the wrong reasons because we now have proof that there were no WMDs. Seriously? Do you not remember all the reports that came out about the large convoy of trucks that were headed into Syria? And then shortly thereafter, Syria starts using chemical weapons, matching the same signatures on its own people. Do you think we were born last night or what? Because here's the problem. We had justification. Not only did we have justification, at that point in time, I agreed with what we were doing. Because before we went in and did what we did, the world was already starting to think that not only the United Nations, but also America had become a paper tiger. Because we kept making all these threats and we were not backing through with them. The problem is what we didn't know is behind the scenes we already were a paper tiger. Because we don't go into fights to win anymore. We don't go into fights to resolve them unanimously and victoriously. We go into fights as delaying actions. And part of that, again, is if you go back and you do research, there was a group that basically decided after, I believe it started after World War II, because World War I, they thought there was never going to be anything like that ever again. World War II happened just a few short years later, and everybody was like, we've got to find a way to stop this. So what they started doing behind the scenes is they started putting the world's economies together. They started intertwining them and connecting them, because then it was basically the economic version of mutually assured destruction. No one nation can wage war on another one now to the point where it completely obliterates it, or the entire world's economy will collapse. But that still doesn't stop people from trying and going in to try to exert their force and their will. Now, this is my problem with all of this, because we have not had the ability to go in and win decisively anywhere since before Vietnam. We are now looked at as a laughingstock, no matter how strong our military is. And the fact that we have had a president for the last 7 years, doing the mea culpa apology tour. You want to know what's causing all of this right now? It lays at the feet of every single one of us, whether we want to admit it or not. And some of you right now are cussing me, and you're turning off the radio or your phone or your computer or however it is that you're listening to the show, and you're just ready to turn it off. But let's be honest. We are the ones that fell asleep at the switch. We got busy with our daily lives, we got busy with keeping up with the Joneses, and we fell asleep at the switch. If you want to blame somebody for Paris, look in the mirror. Because we get the government that we deserve. And that's my point. That will be my point from now until we finally decide it's time to change something. If you don't like the way something is, you need only but look in the mirror to realize that you are part of the problem, but you can also be part of the solution. That's why all of this was started. The Facebook page, the initial show, the radio network that's now heard in multiple places all over the place, the shows that are carried in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 markets. Not bragging on myself, just trying to make you understand that this is important to me, and it's been my message all along, and we're running out of time. You cannot keep blaming the government for what they're doing, because we're the ones that keep voting for these same idiots over and over and over and over and over again. It's time to look in a mirror. We have to decide, are we going to change something, or are we going to gripe? Because the world is falling apart and we are watching. Paris, 2 nights ago, 140 people that were going about their daily lives had their lives snuffed out because of a group of egomaniacal maniacs. And the president comes out and says, oh, can't be ISIS. Nope, nope, nope. Not ISIS, not ISIS, not ISIS, because it doesn't fit my narrative, so it can't be ISIS. ISIS is contained. Remember, I told you that 12 hours ago. ISIS doesn't matter anymore. I told you that 12 hours ago. Move along, folks. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. This is just a group of angry people. We don't know what they're mad about yet, but we'll figure it out. We'll buy them some ice cream. Life will be all good. This is how insane our government has gotten. We seriously think that we can fix everything with favors and money. Does anybody not remember when your grandparents used to tell you there are more important things in life than money? Because our government seems to have forgotten it. We think that we can buy friends. We think that if we send enough money their direction to make sure that their people are not starving, that we're going to buy friends. What we don't realize is half the people that we send that money to, because of the way it's designed, it never gets to the people. They see us giving the money to the people that are oppressing them instead of the people that are starving. All it eventually does is make them hate us even more. So again, if you want to fix it, it's time to realize that we are the problem. We did it to ourselves. We abdicated our responsibility. You guys have been listening to me now for months. How many times have I said this? We have abdicated our responsibilities. We fell asleep at the switch. It's time to do something about it. So what are we going to do? Because obviously our president, not going to do much. Our Congress can't even agree about anything, because our government has become a microcosm for our entire society. Nobody gets along anymore. Nobody works together anymore. We have an entire segment of the population that is starting to willingly segregate themselves because they only want to be around their own kind, and nobody's seeing a problem with this. Nobody's concerned. Nobody's really talking about it on the news except for to praise them because they're standing up for what they believe in. This is insane. The entire world has gone insane. And if the events of Paris have not woken you up, then you're not paying attention. Imagine what could happen here if we keep giving in to all of these gun nut hippie free to be you and me hug a tree types that want to say nobody but a police officer needs to have a gun. By that logic, nobody but a fireman needs to have a fire extinguisher. But I still have one in my kitchen. Because God forbid a small fire break out and I have to wait 30 minutes for the fire department to get here now that I live out in the middle of nowhere. But hey, who am I to judge? I'll tell you exactly who I am to judge. I am a concerned citizen of this country who is watching the entire world fall apart, and we are letting it be taken over by crazy people, and we're doing absolutely nothing about it. Now, am I telling you that you need to pick up your nearest weapon and start cleaning it and practicing at the range? No, but I am telling you that it's time to start paying attention to the world around you and get your head out of reality TV. Put down the remote, get off the couch, and find a way to get involved. Even if you disagree with 99.9% of what I say, I would rather have you fighting on the other side of the political spectrum than not fighting at all. Because the simple fact of the matter is we have been unengaged for far too long, and we are seeing the consequences of a country that fell asleep. Plain and simple. All right, so at this point, we do have to take a break because it is the bottom of the hour right here on America Off the Rails on Red State Talk Radio. We will be right back here in just a couple minutes while I get some stuff set up here. Caught my own self flat-footed because I was talking on a roll. All right, we will be right back. Do not go away.
Calls, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, bless you, pray to Jesus Christ. The press is in our pockets cause there's no one free. You cannot make a move now that the NSA can see. Don't expect equality.
Red State Talk Radio. Talk radio the way the Founding Fathers would have done it.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
Hey folks, Slickery Trigger here. I'd like to take a minute to tell you about Rebel Road Tactical. As a defensive pistol instructor, I've had the opportunity to observe many different holster designs and configurations. And one thing is clear. Many of my students won't carry a pistol. Or worse, they'll carry one without a holster at all. Holster designers aren't making holsters for normal people. It seems that most holsters are either an expensive piece of gear designed for Rambo or a piece that doesn't fit or function the way real people need it to fit and function. So, like any good Texan, I decided to learn to form kydex and design one myself, one that would fit the needs of average people. The result is the Rebel Road Tactical CRT Modular. The CRT stands for Carry, Range, and Training. Its thin and lightweight curved design minimizes printing and is adjustable to fit just right for superior comfort and function. Check us out after the show at rebelroadconcealed.blogspot.com.
Red State Talk Radio. Conservatism, Red State style.
Telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, bless you, pray to Jesus Christ. The press is in our pockets.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is America Off the Rails right here on the Sunday edition, right here on Red State Talk Radio. We hope everybody's having a great morning. Still got lots of show left, lots of stuff to talk about. Got a few more clips we want to play. Again, we are going to focus most of the show today on the Paris incident. Because I'm wondering just how much more of this kind of stuff has to happen before we as a country wake up. There was just another story released, I believe it was yesterday, that, we're still looking at taking in 100,000 so-called refugees. Here's my problem with refugees. These folks do not fit refugee status. They don't. They don't and they can't because most of them are of fighting age and they're male. I have a question. I thought usually when refugees ran, it was to try to keep their wives and their children safe. So where are all the wives and the children? But yeah, we're just going to go along here in the great old U.S. of A. and take in all these people because we're going to try to show them that we're compassionate and we're caring and that we're here to help. And then they're going to kill us. I mean, there's no other way to put that at this point, folks, because we are now looking at the same mindset that we have played out in Paris about 2 years ahead of us. Because the Parisians and the French had the same idea. Let's open our borders. Let's make these people understand that we don't hate them. Let's try to be there for them. And now look what it's gotten them. I mean, am I an isolationist? No. But what I am saying is you have to have common sense. I mean, I know that common sense is a flower that no longer grows in everybody's garden, but come on, you have to look at the evidence and realize that there are forces at work here that we are not going to understand. And there are things that are happening that we can't prepare for, no matter how hard we try. I mean, I want you to listen to this. I know some of you have heard it before, but we're going to play it again anyway, because this is crazy. These may be out of order, but these are a couple of clips that I found discussing the incident in Paris for what was us here in the States late Friday night. For them, I think it was early Saturday morning, if I'm not mistaken. But here it is now Sunday early morning, and we're going to have a bit of a discussion about that, because I think it's time that we start really paying attention to what's going on around us instead of trying to treat everybody like everybody wants to get along. And I mean, I'm as big of a Martin fan as the next guy, but no, there are some times when we can't just all get along, and this is going to be one of those times, I'm afraid.
It's an ABC News special report. Now reporting, George Stephanopoulos.
Good afternoon. We're coming on the air right now because there have been a series of violent incidents in Paris, France tonight, this Friday evening. At least 2 shootings in downtown Paris, one at a bar in the 10th arrondissement, another at a music hall, a concert hall near that same area, and a series of explosions at a bar near a stadium in Paris where a huge soccer game this evening between France and Germany, and the French president, Francois Hollande, was in attendance tonight. We are told he is okay, but this is a developing situation right now. I'm here with our chief investigative correspondent, Brian Ross, and of course, Brian, France still traumatized by that terrorist attack 10 months ago at the offices of Charlie Hebdo.
Exactly, an attack then blamed on both ISIS and Al-Qaeda, with attacks at the magazine, and then later an attack at the Jewish supermarket.
Reports of several fatalities, some saying that the shootings are still going on. And as I said, this match between France and Germany could have been a significant target with the French president in attendance.
Absolutely. Now, he was removed by security services. He's away and he's safe. But the fact that these 3 attacks appeared to have been done in a simultaneous manner is what's got the attention of counterterror officials tonight.
And of course, France has already been on high alert because world leaders are going to be converging in Paris for this climate change conference, which President Obama is going to be attending.
That's right. As well as along with the U.S. and the U.K., France has been a continued target of the rhetoric, at least from Al-Qaeda and for ISIS.
And this is the nightmare scenario, Brian Ross, that everyone, Homeland Security officials here at home, also so concerned about the possibility of attacks against soft targets like this.
That's right. Our restaurant, a concert hall, and the stadium, 3 fairly easy targets to attack.
Okay, we're going to stay on top of these reports just coming in. A series of violent incidents in Paris, France tonight. Several dead. Several more may be wounded. It looks like at least 3 incidents. We will have a complete report tonight on World News. We'll be back as the situation warrants.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
All right, so that's the, hang on. Whoa, I didn't expect it to do that. All right, so anyway, that's the gist of the first report, one of the first breaking stories of the attack in Paris. Now, let's not forget that just hours before, the president had said this.
Fight against ISIS front and center in my exclusive interview with President Obama yesterday. When we spoke in the cabinet room shortly before the strike, the president acknowledged how difficult it will be to eliminate the threat from that deadly terror group. Even your friendly critics, Fareed Zakaria, says that what you have on the ground now is not going to be enough. Every couple of months, you're going to be faced with the same choice, back down or double down.
I think what is true is that this has always been a multi-year project, precisely because the governance structures in the Sunni areas of Iraq are weak, and there are none in Syria. And we don't have ground forces there in sufficient numbers to simply march into al-Raqqa in Syria and clean the whole place out. And as a consequence, we've always understood that our goal has to be militarily constraining ISIL's capabilities, cutting off their supply lines, cutting off their financing.
But ISIS is gaining strength, aren't they?
Well, I don't think they're gaining strength. What is true is that from the start, our goal has been first to contain, and we have contained them. They have not gained ground in Iraq, and in Syria, they'll come in, they'll leave, But you don't see this systematic march by ISIL across the terrain. What we have not yet been able to do is to completely decapitate their command and control structures. We've made some progress in trying to reduce the flow of foreign fighters, and part of our goal has to be to recruit more effective Sunni partners in Iraq to really go on offense rather than simply engage in defense.
So what do you think when you hear someone like Ben Carson get up in debate and say, hey, this would be easy. We can take ISIL out just by bombing their oil fields near Anbar. That's what the general told him.
Yeah. What I think is that he doesn't know much about it. And look, George, I think it's fair to say that over the last several years, I've had access to all the best military minds in the country and all the best foreign policy minds in the country. And I'm not running for office.
But you've ignored every single one of them.
My only interest is in success. And if I'm down in the Situation Room talking with people who have worked in these regions and have run major military operations, from the chairman of my Joint Chiefs of Staff, Joe Dunford, to individuals like General Allen, who was involved in Iraqi operations back in 2007, 2008, and they don't think it's easy, then it's probably not easy. And what we've been able to do is to shape a strategy that first and foremost contained the momentum that ISIL had gained.
Yeah, how are they contained now Sunday, days after you've made this statement,
situation
jackhole?
And until Assad is no longer a lightning rod for Sunnis in Syria, and that entire region is no longer a proxy war for Shia-Sunni conflict, we're going to continue to have problems.
That could take a generation.
I would distinguish between making sure that the place is perfect. That's not going to happen anytime soon. With making sure that ISIL continues to shrink in its scope of operation.
Yeah, I can't listen to him anymore. But anyway, so you basically heard the gist of what it was I was looking at, which is when he said, the steps that we've taken have managed to contain ISIL, ISIS, whatever the heck he's calling them today. And then a few short hours later, they broke containment, obviously, because they're blowing up Paris. And he's like, oh, no. We can't jump to any conclusions here while they're taking credit. Much like in Russia, again, where Putin was like, there is no evidence, comrade, that this attack was a terrorist incident. There is evidence of mechanical failure. And ISIS is standing over in the corner going, hey, you Russian guy, yes, all praise be to Allah. We took down your plane. We hope you don't mind. I mean, seriously. They're telling you they did it, and you don't want to hear it. Russia and America are now both guilty of the same thing. And while those two countries seem to be reticent to find their own rear ends with their own two hands, the president of France, of all people, is standing up saying, we will avenge. We will hunt you down. We will kill you. France. Anybody remember France in World War II? They were oh, come on in. Take us over. Just don't kill us. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, now all of a sudden we can't find our spine, and suddenly, it took them over 100 some odd years, but hey, they finally found theirs. I'm saying. But yeah, now here we sit with a president who's this, oh, no. Pay no attention to this. Nope, not ISIS. Nothing to worry about here. Nothing to see, folks. Move along. Seriously. So let's get serious for a second. Let's start talking how we, if we were going to try, could possibly fix this before it becomes a problem here. I hate to say it because I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but his wall idea doesn't seem quite so crazy today as it did on Thursday. The idea of finding a way to remove the folks that have come here illegally, because we can already prove, they've proven by their actions they don't give a crap about our laws, doesn't seem as crazy today as it did on Thursday. Again, will he get my vote in the primary? Probably not, because there are plenty of other conservative folks that have a lot of the same ideas that he does without being the bombastic douche canoe that he is. And I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it. I've been told by folks that have talked to him, He's declined requests to interview on my show after multiple attempts, but I've talked to other folks that have talked to him and said, when it comes right down to it, a lot of his bombasticness is an act because he's an entertainer. Okay, so the problem is, and this is when a lot of folks start making the Reagan comparison, because, Reagan was an actor. But here's the thing. Reagan knew when it was time to stop entertaining and start to be serious. There are lots of things as I get older that I'm learning because I do my own research about the Reagan administration that I'm not a big fan of. But overall, when you look at the broad strokes, there were lots of stuff and lots of things that he got right. And I think that's what we need to get back to, because there's no way that we're ever going to have a perfect government. It's not going to happen. When you are dealing with imperfect beings, nothing can ever be perfect. But we can get the focus back on where it needs to be. The general government, which is what the Constitution refers to as the federal government, was designed for two major reasons: mutual defense and interstate commerce. We need to get back to that because they don't pay attention to the defense part of it anymore. Yeah, there's this big industrial military complex machine that wants to do nothing but build things and build bigger, better things so they can break things. And I understand how that works. I actually had a discussion with a group on Friday that was pointing out the fighter that we're building that's going to cost us trillions of dollars. First problem is, if they're referring to the Joint Strike Fighter, which I don't know if they are because I didn't actually pull up the article, we need a new idea because China's already hacked that one. But the simple fact of the matter is, this group's simplistic argument was that, we don't need a new plane because we already have hundreds of planes that can do the same thing that this one plane can already do. Except by that logic, we should roll everybody in the country back to a 1957 Chevy because we don't need newer cars because that car could already do everything that these particular cars can do now as far as when it comes from point A to point B and getting you where you need to go. The logic doesn't hold because technology and warfare has changed. A lot of our jets are antiquated now, whether we want to admit it or not. And no, I'm not throwing the A-10 in that category for all of you folks out there that are big Warthog fans. I understand that plane doesn't really need to go away. But the simple fact of the matter is we do have an aging fleet of aircraft that are becoming more and more difficult to maintain. So we're actually spending more money in the long run trying to hold on to the older planes than we would be if we could actually find a plane that the Chinese hadn't hacked to make a new one. But that's kind of not here nor there at the moment because it still has to do with mutual defense, which is what our government is not dealing with anymore. We have the ICE agents that are basically walking around in their own handcuffs, being told that they cannot deport people, that they shouldn't deport people, because we all need to go along to get along. Problem. They broke the law. If you don't want that to be illegal, then do what you need to do to change the law. But we still get a say in that. That's another thing that this government has completely forgotten and doesn't give a crap about. We still get a say in whether or not we want open borders. And if anything, in the last 2 days has not proven to you that the concept of open borders is insane, then you either are not paying attention or you just don't care about your fellow human beings. Because the simple fact of the matter is, we are inviting disaster into this country every time someone comes across the border illegally. Now, this is where the argument's going to get a little weird, because you know what I hear all day, every day, is, if you're so worried about people that come here illegally, then all of you that are from ancestry that weren't born here should go home. See, this is where the argument both proves and disproves what you're saying. Because there were no immigration laws, so therefore we weren't breaking any laws when our ancestors came here hundreds of years ago. But it does prove out that when there is a large, overwhelming force that comes in to an area and starts trying to claim it as their own, the indigenous population inherently gets wiped out. The same thing probably happened when the original Native Americans came across the bridge, that land bridge that everybody talks about from thousands of years ago. So let's just be completely real here. You can't bring up 1492 and say, we've been against illegal immigration since 1492. That doesn't work because there was no such thing as an immigration policy in 1492. But you can look back at what happened to the Native American people and say, do we really want those type of things to happen here? Which is what here and now, which is what led to the immigration policies that we started putting in place, because we want to be a melting pot. We want people to come here, but we want to make sure that when they come here, they are coming here to become a part of the American dream, not turn it into something else. And if you do not think that is what a good percentage of the Muslim population are trying to do, then you tell me why it is that a Christian bakery cannot refuse to bake wedding cakes for gay couples without facing lawsuits and discrimination suits and time in front of the Supreme Court. But there are Muslim bakeries that do it all day, every day, and nobody talks about it. There are places that are in places like Dearborn, Michigan, that are becoming basically halal restaurants because it suits their population. So there are entire segments of our population that are being supplanted because of the new folks that have come in. Is this not sinking in to anyone, or is it just me? Because to me, Paris was a big, bright, shiny flare that we're going in the wrong direction in this country, because they are a few years ahead of where we're trying to get to, and look what's happening to them. Paris doesn't have gun rights. They haven't for a long time. They don't have the ability to carry weaponry. Look where it got them. They had basically an open border policy where anybody could come in and do whatever it was they needed to do to make their lives better. Look where it got them. And we are considering making those same decisions now, and had been for months. I have a problem with all of this. I have an even larger problem with the fact that our president keeps saying over and over and over again, anytime there's a mass shooting in a school, that shootings like this don't happen in other civilized countries. You were just proven a liar yet again, because they do happen. And the same people that were shooting all of these people were breaking the law in multiple cases and on multiple counts. Did it stop them? No. It didn't. Would it ever have stopped them? No. And all we're doing now is we have all of these places around the country that are popping up as gun-free zones. There are places that I, as a concealed carry permit holder, cannot go unless I want to either leave my gun in the car or leave it at home or risk possibly being removed from a premises for trespassing. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that part out loud? I do urge you to research your own personal state laws as to wherever you reside. However, in the state of Oklahoma, if you violate the no gun rule, as long as it's not a federal facility, basically all they can really do is ask you to leave. At that point, if you refuse to leave or you refuse to take off the gun, they can have an officer come out and write you a ticket for trespassing, and it is a summons and you have to go to court. Again, I'm not telling you if you live in Florida, please do not take my advice. If you live anywhere but Oklahoma, I'm not even saying if you live in Oklahoma to take my advice. What I am saying to you is to research your own state laws before you decide whether or not you're going to violate a gun-free zone. Because certain states have other laws, I myself would much rather have my weapon with me and run the risk of possibly getting a trespassing ticket than to not be able to act if something goes crazy. And that's going to be my stance from now until the end of time, only because, again, I'm sorry, I knew these things were going to happen. It's called being a student of history. History repeats itself. It works in cycles, and it happens over and over and over again. If you want to know what's going to happen next, all you really got to do is go back and look at what happened before. Because think about it. We are now basically seeing the exact same things that happened in the build-ups to both World War I and World War II, all playing out at the same time, except now the only difference is, instead of it being a specific country, it's now an ideological group of people that is our enemy. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to focus on it. Everybody wants to call me a xenophobe. You call me whatever you want to call me. I don't care. The simple fact of the matter is we have a problem, and it's time that we address it. The only way that we can address it is by taking our country back. I don't care if you are a Democrat or a Republican. If you are someone with common sense and you know what should be happening and you look around at everything that's going on around you and you realize this country is not the one that I grew up in and it's not the one that I want to leave to my children and now my grandchildren, then you really need to do something. And no, I'm not saying it's time to bust out the little secret room you have in your basement, all you Batman millionaire wannabes, because I know you're out there. But no, and I'm not saying to dust off the guns and spark a revolution. What I am saying, though, is it's time to get prepared. Even if it means getting yourself some extra food, maybe a generator, making sure that you have weapons around your home. If you have children in your home that are old enough to know where the weapons are and how to use them, make sure they're trained properly in the event that something happens and you're not home. Make them understand that they're not toys. Make them understand that they're deadly weapons. Make them understand what can happen if they use them. This is part of the problem with our society. We spend all of our lives now shooting at paper targets and watching targets blow up on a video game screen. We don't ever let children see the actual consequences of what happens if they use a gun, because they're desensitized to it. But if you take them somewhere where they're hunting, or you take them somewhere where they see what happens when some sort of an animal is wounded with a weapon, they start to see the consequences. And I'm not saying to do that on purpose, but what I am saying is take your children hunting. Make them understand how it works. I'm not saying they have to watch a human be shot. There are ways to teach them the lessons and make it an experience for everybody all at the same time, and make them understand that these things are not toys, that this is not a video game. This is another problem that we have cropping up all over the place. We now have an entire group of people that are terrified of weaponry because of a handful of children that don't understand what a gun actually is, and their only experience with it is through video games. There's going to come a time, probably sooner rather than later, that we're going to need to know how to defend ourselves. Because I myself will not be one of those ones that just like what just happened in Paris. I will not be going gently into that good night. I will be fighting, kicking, screaming, tooth and nail, and hopefully taking a few of them with me when I go. And I'm telling you right now, you can tell me I'm crazy, you can never listen to the show again, you can tell all your friends that I'm crazy. The time that we have to make a final decision is coming soon. Plain, simple, no other way to put it, it's coming soon. But at this point, folks, this is pretty much going to do it for this particular episode of America Off the Rails. Again, I have been a little more preachy than usual. I do hope that those of you who are maybe tuning in for the first time will give the show another shot, because this is probably not one that a first-time listener is going to care for very much, because I didn't really pull any punches. But let's be completely real. At this point, it is time to stop pulling punches and time to use our abilities to continue to make differences in the world around us, which is, again, the reason why this platform was started in the first place. For anyone who did like the show and you'd like to hear more, you can always find my archives on iHeartRadio. I'm actually listed there under America Off the Rails. The show also has its own app on at the Android App Store. You can put quotation marks around America Off the Rails, download it, take the show anywhere you want it to go. We are also heard Monday through Friday on K98Talk.com and .org. We have mirror sites there because you never know when somebody's going to decide to do something crazy. Then we also I am heard in several other places. There is a website coming soon that will start outlining all of the different places that this show can be heard. And again, want to give a big shout out to both Red State, thanks for the time this morning, guys, and WNJC 1360 AM, the powerhouse out of Philadelphia, where this show can be heard every Thursday at 2 Eastern. 5 days a week, coming soon if we can find a way to pull it off. All right, folks, I'm out. This is Rick Robinson. I will be back with you live next Sunday and back with you throughout the week for those of you that choose to listen in elsewhere. Until that happens, be safe. Say a prayer for Paris. Back with you next week.
You guys, I'm getting home. Later.
Game over, man. It's game over.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Red State Talk Radio. Conservatism, Red State style.